This is Smoking Out the Closet. Now, here are your hosts.
Hi, my name is Rayven. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Asmodeus. I use they, them pronouns.
And welcome back to another episode of
Smoking Out the Closet.
For those of you who are new or just joining us, welcome. We are a queer podcast.
Pun intended.
That talks about cannabis,
the LGBT community,
and everything in between.
And beyond.
So welcome. I don't know exactly what's going to happen while we're recording and uploading this. There's a lot of things going on politically that could change right now, but I do want to just go ahead and say there's a lot of stuff happening. So moving forward with our show, we are going to try to stay on top of things, but there's a lot of things moving way faster than we can, obviously, keep track of. So I just wanted to do that housekeeping thing broadcast for y'all. Also, we have new microphones, so hopefully it sounds better than the last recording. I finally got it figured out and set up. That being said, do we want to jump into the review?
Sure.
So I got Simply Herbs Cream Ground Flower Quarter. I got it while it was at sale in my store because they were doing a Veterans Day sale. And I got it, ironically, at the same price that Ascend sells at full price. So I think at my store it's $35-ish. I got it for like $22, $25, I think. At Ascend, their ground quarters are $22 full price.
Dang.
So that did bump it up a little bit for me. Not a whole lot, to be honest. But let's go over the lab results, and then we need to talk about our scores. So THCA is like 19.58 with 5.7 THC, so roughly 20% THC. Yeah. Roughly 20% THC. Highest terpenes. It's kind of low, unfortunately. It's got 0.195% caryophyllene, followed by 0.166 limonene, followed by 0.104 linalool. Everything is 0.006 or lower.
Not a whole lot in there.
No, it's big. But rumor has it that a lot of Ascend's products are low batch or low testing, like Insa or terrapin flower, that they buy in bulk and just relabel it.
Interesting.
And I kind of felt that with the ground a little bit.
Yeah.
It felt like terrapin's ground, but just actually more ground.
Terrapin really doesn't do ground. They do shake, and it has them little buds in it.
Yeah, but because when I was getting out of the jar, there was a huge keef nug inside of it. So it was almost like they took terrapin shake and just said, here, let's actually grind it a little more, because there was ground up sugar leaf in it.
Interesting.
What's your score and what's your reasoning for it?
I gave it like a 3.5. It really didn't do a whole lot for me. It smoked well and tasted good, but other than that, I really didn't feel many effects. My anxiety was still kind of going.
Yeah, it was kind of
nothing. Yeah, nothing really else going for it.
I gave it a 3.8 because I totally agree with what you're saying. As far as ground flower goes, it's still dry. That's an issue across the board, I feel like, with pre-ground flower, but it's like dry.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm giving it a 3.8 is the price.
Yeah.
0.3 is just because you're getting a quarter for $22. Their half ounces are $35 pre-ground.
Damn.
Those are bad prices. So that is the thing that is saving it, I think. It was a decent high. Nothing medical for it, though. It was an okay high. So definitely certified mids, in my opinion. And definitely your opinion as well. So this episode is going to be a little more loose, just because of everything going on politically. We have a couple topics that I do want to talk about, and I want to jump into one that's political right now. And that is Sarah McBride. So I was explaining to you a little bit before we recorded and after, and then if our listeners are aware of what's going on, I'm also going to explain here again. So Sarah McBride is the representative-elect for Delaware. She is going to be one of the Congress people in the government federally for the state of Delaware. She is a trans woman and hasn't even gone into her office yet. She can still be, they have to be confirmed, all the new ones coming in. So she's got to walk a very fine line with everything right now. Nancy May, I think it's Nancy May, another congresswoman, and Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, are implementing a policy that would make anyone who does not match the, quote, sex that was recorded at birth, if they go into the bathroom that doesn't match that, they would get in a lot of trouble. So it's really great, fun time for a lot of people. Not just Sarah McBride, but also a lot of the staffers. And this is where the issue lies. Before I get into Sarah McBride's response, what are your thoughts on this, Azzy?
I still can't believe that we're doing this. Why are we still so preoccupied where people go pee?
In my opinion, it's like a diversion.
Yeah.
They need a scapegoat, and the scapegoat that the Republican Party has right now, especially the transphobic ones, because some aren't, but there's a lot more that are than aren't.
Yeah.
They don't really have a plan for anything. And so this is like, don't pay attention to Trump's cabinet picks and what they are grossly underqualified for. Pay attention to this whole issue with this one person that we're trying to target, but it's also targeting a lot of people that work in Capitol. And so, before I go into McBride's comment on this, is there anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
So, this is Sarah McBride's official statement. I'm not here to fight about bathrooms. I'm here to fight for Delawareans and to bring down costs facing families. Like all members, I will follow the rules as outlined by Speaker Johnson, even if I disagree with them. This effort to distract from the real issues facing the country hasn't distracted me over the last several days, as I've remained hard at work preparing to represent the greatest state in the Union, debatable, come January. Serving the 119th Congress will be an honor of a lifetime, and I will continue to look forward to getting to know my future colleagues on both sides of the aisle. Each of us were sent here because voters saw something in us that they value. I have loved getting to see those qualities in the future colleagues that I've met. And I look forward to seeing those qualities in every member come January. I hope all of my colleagues will seek to do the same with me. So, I'm not going to say that I have never been in her position. I'm not going to say that I never tried to make more people uncomfortable to save myself both time and heartache, but it got too bad for me to do that. It became way too inconvenient for myself to do that. I did that when I worked for Penn State, and I had to use the private bathroom that was so far out of the way to get changed and everything that I would have to be there 30 minutes early just to put on my earphone. I'm not going to say I never done that. What are your thoughts on Sarah McBride's statement?
So does that mean she's not going to stand up for this? Like, she's not going to fight and say, hey, this is something that needs to, we shouldn't be fighting about.
No. And even before this statement came out, she's already gone on record saying she was going to use the gender-neutral single-stall bathrooms.
It's tough because it's something you don't want to restrict access to the people who need it, right? But also, she's right. There are bigger fish to fry here than debating bathrooms.
Yeah. So here's my thoughts on this, and I'm going to kind of continue where you were with this. So she's not even an official congressman yet. She's a congressman-elect. Or congresswoman-elect. So it's kind of hard because they can use that as fuel if she's like, well, I'm going to break the policy that Mike Johnson's putting into place, which Mike Johnson can do without any votes or anything. He just implement new policies. That's his ability as the Speaker of the House. It doesn't look good, and a lot of people could use that against her to deny her getting into Congress, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's beneficial for her to just be
Yes.
Yeah. Right now.
But also, the fact that she's literally just going to let them. She made no note about the trans staffers. Most Congress personnel, if they're by their offices, are really close to have some. I'm not sure if most, but some have bathrooms inside their office, private bathrooms, or they're really close to single stall bathrooms. That, I will say, is predominantly in their office, not in most of the federal buildings, and that's where kind of the issue comes into play as well. Mm-hmm. She's also going to let Mike Johnson just full-on misgender her during any of the proceedings going forward. Which is kind of a thing. My issue, I totally understand where Sarah McBride's coming from. You know, I totally understand why she's going down this route. Because someone said, I think it's Marla on TikTok, said you can't be simultaneously Harvey Milk and Marsha B. Johnson. You can't simultaneously be working in the government to do all these different rules and etiquette and policies while fighting the system. I don't fully agree with that. You have to, there's a fine line you have to do that. And I think right now she, as a congresswoman elect, she's walking that fine line. Hopefully she'll make more statements once she's actually in. But there's also, there's so many things that, like, there's certain policies and certain levels of professionalism you have to follow as a congressperson. The problem is a lot of the Republicans don't do that, i.e. Matt Gaetz and a lot of other Republicans, doing stuff to minors. So I think it's kind of bullshit that Republicans are doing this.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, my issue with this is not with Marsha. Or not Marsha. Not with Sarah McBride. My more issue is with the Democrats. They have not said anything. I contacted Chris DeLuzio, our local representative for Congress here. He has made a statement about it. He is currently trying to fight it, but he's one of the few Democrats that have said anything. And that's the thing with this current run with Democrats, is a lot of them are also scapegoating our community. Some have said that we lost because we focused on transgender people. That's why we lost the election.
What the fuck?
And I could go on a tangent. I think I will go on a tangent about why we lost the election. But it's not because we were supporting transgender people. In fact, the Democratic Party barely did any campaigning on protecting transgender people. They did zero.
Yeah.
While the Republicans spent millions and millions of dollars making us a focus of the campaign and stopping, the woke mind virus, quote unquote, Democrats had no campaign videos on transgender people. They said LGBT, but never focusing on the issues that a certain, the current subgroup of the whole community, trans people, are being attacked.
Yeah.
So, before I get into why I think we lost the campaign, because I want to bring that up, is there anything you want to add about the whole McBride situation?
I understand, for lack of a better word, I guess, the benefits at the position she's in right now, but also that's going to be really hard on her. That's going to be hard on everything for her to be able to, do her job, I feel like, efficiently, with all of that being mentally taxing as well.
And the thing is, it's affecting the staffers, and she made no note of it, and friggin' the Democratic Party did nothing. As a whole, they did nothing.
Silence is complicity.
Exactly, and that's what irks me the most. So, this is an issue I see with the Democratic Party quite a lot, as a left-leaning, someone who's left-leaning, I will say. I don't know if I fully, because I always grapple with this. I'm not sure if I'm fully leftist. I'm not really sure where I am on the political spectrum, but I'm definitely more on the left side. And I feel like I'm more on the left side than a lot of Democrats who are kind of more centralist, Joe Biden. But here's the thing. So and I've seen this post-election too. A lot of the Democrats, so a lot of the reason why a lot of people went to Trump is they played on their fears and their emotions. Rather than logic, they played on the emotions. And that is a lot easier to get people on your side. a lot of, so if you want to break down in the simplest, it's a lot of people who voted for Trump were like, how's this going to affect me and my family? A lot of people who voted for Kamala, am I pronouncing that right? Kamala, for Vice President Harris, was more looking, how is this going to affect other people? Not just me. How is it going to affect other people? And I kind of get that. You want to protect your own, but you also want to protect others.
Yeah.
But the issue with the Democratic Party, some of the issues with the Democratic Party are it's very preachy because we're trying to use logic and everything and not trying to, as we like to say in the military, not trying to explain it Barney style. Right? Like, take the tariffs, where we'd be like, oh, the tariffs are going to make things more expensive. How do you guys not understand that? Not realizing that a lot of the poorer areas of the country, or like some of the areas that are very underfunded with their schools, like Oklahoma, who's 49 or 48 out of all 50 states, civics isn't really a thing that explains. Civics isn't even required in every state. Each state has their own general system. Like, they get a main basics from the Department of Education, but most states has their own curriculum. So not all teach civics, or not all require civics. It could be an elective you could have, but you could also take world history instead. That civics, it usually is where you learn more about what the breakdown of an actual tariff is. World history or U.S. history, you can learn about the tariffs from the 1930s and how that screwed up, and it's kind of what's going on now, potentially. But that isn't really a common thing. So we kind of be like, oh, why don't you understand? Why don't you do this? Why don't you understand? Instead of like, hey, this is why this is an issue, and kind of explain it in a more simplified terms. Like, okay, you have a raw material from China. Let's just use China. You pay them and then have to pay an additional tariff on it when you get it. That's going to make your baseline more expensive, so you're going to have to raise the price. I've seen a lot of people explain it like t-shirts or steel or, metals like cars and everything. So it's a lot of issues, but it's a lot of the left will actually explain it in not super simplified terms, and a lot of people get frustrated with that. Another thing is what I've seen since the election is you get what you voted for. That's a lot of the reason why the rural communities do end up voting red, is because a lot of the left side of the Democrats kind of think, oh, well, you guys are dumb. This is what you voted for. Now you're going to fuck around and find out. Like, this is what you deserve. Instead of being like, hey, we understand how you voted, but that's not what's going to be good for you, but we're going to take the time to focus on your community and try helping you steal. That's an issue with a lot of what some people call Yankee Democrats.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are like Harvard, graduates. I mean, a lot of the Republicans are too, but they don't take the time to actually try focusing on the rural side of America. They more focus on the industrial side of America, which I believe you should focus on both. And instead of just being, this is what you wanted, now you made your bed and lie in it, you should be like, hey, we see how you guys are now afraid, or we see how you are realizing certain things. Highest since the election, some of the highest Google searches are what are a tariff and how can I change my vote? So instead of being, you fucked around, now you got to find out, is more of, here's what we're going to do to make sure you guys don't lose things. Because a lot of people are like, we want to vote, we're voting for Trump because he's going to get rid of Obamacare, but I don't want to lose my ACA or, Affordable Care Act. Not realizing that the Obamacare was a name that the Republicans gave to the Affordable Care Act to diminish
same thing.
So instead of being like, na boo boo, you screwed up, the Democrats should be, hey, we're going to make sure that you're not going to lose your Affordable Care Act. We understand, like, you were kind of, things happened, you weren't aware, or no one probably explained it to you, or just, you're voting how you voted. It doesn't matter. What they should do is, hey, we're going to make sure that you don't lose your care. Like, yes, we lost the votes, but we should make sure you don't lose your care. Instead of this, like, grade school, like, playground bullcrap that we're doing as politicians.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're all still people.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like Bernie was really great with it.
Absolutely. He's a democratic socialist.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like...
For the people, about the people.
And a lot of people are like, oh, we don't want socialism. I'm like, do you realize that a lot of the programs that Woodrow Wilson and FDR did were socialist by definition? Farm subsidies are a socialist program.
Do you get food stamps? Do you get health insurance from the state at a reduced or free cost? Does the same thing happen with your prescriptions?
Do you get money from the government because you raise cattle and are a dairy farmer?
Do you get SSI? All of those are socialist programs.
Yeah, that's a fight for another day. I might do that on my veterans. I might do that.
I feel like that's more of where I lie in, like, politics.
Yeah, and this is a thing, too, that I always I think is funny, is our country's Democrats, if you look at the equal scale, are centralists.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I'm more left-leaning than that. I'm the part of the left-leaning when you get...
Yeah, you can go far enough left, you get your guns back.
But I'm also a constitutionalist, right? Like, I firmly believe in the Constitution and what it could do and what it's supposed to do. And that's why we're like things like in Oklahoma where they're trying to force the Bible into schools. And I'm like, no, fuck that. That breaks the Establishment Clause. Fuck you. So, I mean,
separation of church and state. If you're going to have church in schools, guess what? The Satanic Temple's going to step in, too. You have to allow them, too.
Well, here's what my thing is that I love that a lot of people are like, okay, so you're going to, like, force the Bible into schools and force that as part of the curriculum learning. Okay, cool. That everyone has to do? Cool. So if the church is in schools, the IRS should be in the church.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so we're at 25 minutes of recording right now. Do you want to go a little longer, or do you want to take an early break?
Well, we can take an early break.
Okay. All right, and so we're going to be back now to have some longer topics, but we're going to be back after a quick word about our merch.
Hey everybody, it's Rayven from Smoking Out the Closet. Real fast, I just wanted to talk about the fact that our podcast now officially has a merch store. So we're going through Big Cartel for print on demand, and these products will change from time to time. But right now we have an emotional support products between a crossbody bag, a t-shirt, beanie, and a patch, and we have our podcast mug available in 2 different sizes as well. So if you're interested in supporting our show or just want some really cool swag, head over to smokingoutthecloset.bigcartel.com and grab some stuff from us.
And we are back. Okay, so I'm actually going to let you pick. I actually think we should do this next topic and then do the topic that I was actually asked to do from a fellow podcaster. So let's get cathartic a little bit and get some shit off our chest. Do you want to talk about the dark side of working in the cannabis industry?
Sure.
Big caveat to this is we work in a state that is predominantly controlled by multi-state operators, big corporate weed entities.
And that's one of the dark sides in and of itself.
Yeah. Thanks to one of the Pennsylvania acts, I think Act 16, that allowed them to buy all the smaller independent state-of-the operators. I think we have 3 left.
Yeah.
That have not been bought out. So let's dive in. Without saying, we're not going to say who we work for just to make sure that we're still okay with our jobs.
Keep just enough anonymity that we don't lose our job.
Yes. Do you want to talk about what issues you have with where you work?
Where do you want me to start? Well, first of all, we're union, so that just, the company doesn't treat us well in the first place, so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you guys.
But it's a good reunion.
Yeah.
But it sucks that we had to have the union to get the company to treat us better. Case in point, when we went for renegotiations with our contract, we came in with, what did we come in with? $3, and they came in with 31 cents.
Really?
Yeah, and then we negotiated for, I think it's $1 if you've been there less than a year in December. It's $1.25 if you've been there over a year. It's $1 something. I don't have the contract in front of me. It's an incremental based on how long you've been there, how much you get in December.
It's still, like, you guys actually have you guys have security.
Yeah.
We don't at my store.
Yeah, that's why
they laid them all.
That's why I left my last dispensary, is because they wanted me to be in the security office all the time. And I was like, nope. We have armed security. And then our company was also trying to think about, a while ago, it was like almost a year ago at this point, maybe we should get unarmed security. I'm like, what's the point then? Hello? Also, some of these security guards that they do hire from this company, this third-party company, they like to take naps on the clock. They don't pay attention.
Oh, great.
Fucking... Yeah, but most of them are good now. I got a few decent ones. So.
That's good. Yeah, because that's something like that we do at my store occasionally. Like, I'll watch security. I had to talk to the head of security in our state, and it was me and our inventory manager. And I am literally the entry-level position. I am a bartender. I am at the bottom of the barrel. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get why they want me to do this because I'm a veteran. But also at the same time, I'm not getting paid for security control issues.
And that's what I think I need to talk to our security people. They need to hire more veterans. Mm-hmm. They hire, like, ex-cops, which the ones I've met are actually decent. The reason they left are for good reasons. Mm-hmm. That they saw the system was corrupt, or that they weren't,
They tried.
They out. Exactly. But yeah, see, you're the. Are you okay with me disclosing how much you make?
Yeah, I don't.
You're making $17 an hour talking to the fucking head of security. What?
Yeah.
And that asshole's probably making how much?
Six
figures at least.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And here's the cool thing: he's also a veteran, but he does not care for weed. Like, at all. I'm like, why are you working here then?
What?
And, like, I was trying to ask him... So, here, I'll bring him an example. So, I'm talking with him, right? And he's like, hey, go... If anything happens, if there's an active shooter, go into the vault. Makes sense. It's a steel box. But there are some points of weakness there, right? Mm-hmm. And he said to line all the walls with our inventory shelves. For extra protection. I'm like, okay, do you know where the weak spot is so we can add some extra shelf there? Just kept ignoring my question.
I had no idea.
And I'm like, if you don't have an idea, just, say, I don't have that information right now, but I can try to get that for you.
Instead of just ignoring.
Because he's like, oh, yeah, well, if you have, like, something like a 5.56, it's just going to rip through. I said, yes, it's going to rip through, but what you want to do is minimize it.
Mm-hmm. And reinforce the places where you can't. I was holding a thought when you said that this dude didn't even fucking like cannabis.
Yeah, what's your thought?
My company's run by people who have never smoked weed in their goddamn life. They're all business majors. Yeah, business majors who've never gotten into weed even before they got into the fucking industry. Their introduction to the industry was like buying this cannabis company after the money.
Mine's a restaurateur. Which, I don't know if he's ever used it, because here's my thing, I don't think he's ever worked in a kitchen.
So then he probably hasn't.
So he probably hasn't.
If you've never worked back a house. If you've been back a house, you've definitely had weed before.
When I worked at my first restaurant, my back of house manager, like the manager of the back of house, is like, "Do you smoke weed?" No, I think you should. Now here I am years later. I'm like, damn. Right, fuck.
I used to get so paranoid about using weed when I worked in, I'm just going to say where I worked, but I worked at Taco Bell. Because, it's Taco Bell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and other thing,
yeah.
Somebody got, I'm not going to name names, so I'm going to get around that, but somebody got fired for doing meth in my walk-in when I was a manager there. But I was so nervous to, like, smoke weed when I was there, and I probably should have. Because...
I did that when I worked at Arby's.
Yeah.
Before I worked in the dispensary I worked at, I was smoking weed. And I was like, none of my closing staff had issues with it, and any of the managers who had it were like, look, this is my medicine. If you don't want me to smoke on property, sure, I won't hit my vape on property. I'll walk over to freaking KFC's fucking parking lot. I don't care. Mm-hmm. But you can't say I can't use my product.
Yeah. That's like saying I can't take my Prozac before I come into work. Okay, yeah, you'll see how that works. I've accidentally been there.
So another thing I want to say for like my company, they like to lay off people. They laid off our security officers who actually worked for the company, which is a backlog, so now we actually have someone in security office. And sometimes because they laid off all our fucking part-timers, because we had the audacity to ask for a fucking dollar raise. So now we sometimes don't have anyone in the security office. And according to the company, that's fine as long as there's not a delivery.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, I reported it.
Absolutely.
Nothing's come of it. Yeah.
Okay, so what if you, God, I don't know if we can pull OSHA in here, because that needs to be like a safe working environment. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything.
Definitely
no. I'm going to try to pull strings. We're going to try and pull strings and give him trouble for fucking not having anybody in there.
What else do we have as an issue? We're just overworked right now because we have literally next to nobody.
Everybody at my store comes in sick because they're like, oh, if you're sick, you need to go to the doctor. Well, okay, so not a lot of people can go to the doctor. And they're like, well, you have health insurance through the union. Well, guess what? There's still a copay.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I'm still waiting for the last day I called off to get approved because I went, because of the time, because I had a migraine. I get chronic migraines. Luckily, it's been a couple months, but usually it's once a month. I ended up going through the telemed service. The telemed service doesn't have their own direct line. And so HR was like, oh, well, we need a number to verify it. And I said, I don't know how you're going to be able to do that. It's with the VA. You need my last four and my last name. Well, technically you have that. That is against HIPAA to go and ask the VA like that.
Yeah, because you did not sign anything saying that they could disclose your medical records to your place of employment. Mm-hmm. Because they don't need... I'm getting upset. I'm getting fired up, and I'm getting closer to the microphone. But they don't need any of that information. It's none of their fucking business.
And it's assigned. It says the doctor I went through, it said it was the Veteran Affairs Telehealth Triage, and what it cleared me for.
That's all they need.
Yeah.
Just put it in your file, close it.
And it says that I confirmed it. And if they haven't hit me yet, and it's been about a month, they haven't hit me with like a write-up or points for missing work. If they do, I'm going to fight it.
Yeah, and also at this point, it's been too long.
Yeah.
That's why I do like the clause that's in our union contract that it has to be within 2 weeks of the incident, mm-hmm. that you have to address the employee for correction.
But here's another thing. Fucking payroll.
Can't do their goddamn job.
They can't do their fucking job. If I screw up money in cash handling more than like a certain amount of time, I get fired. But they can mess with people's paychecks and still have their fucking job?
Oh, did I ever tell you about the bullshit that happened with Duncan's payroll?
No.
I went almost a month without getting paid there.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And I was about to say, well, we're about to call... I was looking at lawyers for you.
And I said, well, you weren't with me at the time. It wasn't the Duncan in State College.
Oh, it wasn't that one?
No, it was the Duncan in Altoona when I was in college. And I straight up said, if I do not get paid this Friday, I am going to quit. I cannot come in if you do not pay me this Friday. I don't have gas money.
Yeah. That's
and guess who got their paycheck that Friday? Because they weren't supposed to hold a check. It was not in any of my hiring paperwork that they had held a check and blah, 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 or whatever.
And it's illegal for them to do that, too.
Exactly. But payroll thinks they can do whatever the fuck they want because they're the big dogs who don't have to work with the people at the bottom.
But, like, here's the thing. We hired back 2 employees that we laid off, right?
Which good.
But the problem is, it's also affecting the tips because they were like, oh, well, now we got to do this weekly tip program, and we got to do it, but it's not calculating tips right. And I told HR there's going to be gaps, and you have guys have not planned for it. And they're like, well, do you have an example? I was like, I don't have an example yet. And now I'm emailing them, and I'm like, hey, here's your fucking example, Jagoff. So I'm just really pissed at this company, and like, it's unfortunately a lot of the other companies too. There are some way worse than other.
Truly, fuck you.
But it's most of the MSOs. It is literally most of the MSOs.
No, yeah.
So yeah, it's a big issue that. Let's see, what other things? I didn't have any notes.
We become impromptu therapists at my store. I don't know about you. I get trauma dumped on
all the time, and I think
so much.
I think that's across the board.
Oh my gosh!
Who you work for, you're gonna get trauma dumped, and that takes a lot of energy. So if you're thinking, I'm glad you brought that up. If you're thinking about coming into the industry, be prepared for that.
Yeah, nobody told me that when I came into the industry. I make $18 an hour. I should make at least twice that to be a therapist, just a talk therapist.
Yeah, we're actively working like therapists and pharmacy technicians at the same time with like a third of the pay.
Yeah.
And I brought that up to HR, and HR was like, "Well, not really, because you guys aren't making recommendations." I said, "What do you mean we're not making recommendations? We're not saying
whole fucking job.
That is literally our job. We are literally saying, what's your issue? What symptoms? What kind of feelings do you want to get? What symptoms do you want relieved? And then we're recommending products based on that. What do you mean we're not pharmacy technicians?"
Yeah.
In fact, they're just working more like the fucking pharmacists.
Well, it's because they just don't want to call us that, because then they'd have to pay us more money.
They also laid off all the pharmacy and then hired them all back when they realized they couldn't legally do that.
Jesus Christ. We're finally getting a fucking pharmacist at my store. We've been without a pharmacist for like 6 months.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we just had remote pharmacists.
Wait.
We haven't had one in the store for over 6 months.
Oh yeah, they also they do remote pharmacists, which, like,
technically legal. They can technically do it.
Yeah, but then it makes it harder when you actually have a patient who has a issue or they're concerned about the medications they're on, which I tell most patients, I'm like, look, usually it's just blood thinners and SSRIs that have any negative interactions, and blood thinners is actually a natural negative because if it increases your heart rate, you're going to bleed a little more and a lot faster. SSRIs just fuck with your tolerance. And not a lot of people fucking realize that when they come in.
No. It fucks with your alcohol tolerance and with your cannabis tolerance.
Or like HRT. HRT fucks with your tolerance.
Absolutely. One way or the other. If you have more estrogen, your tolerance is going to be lower probably. If you have more testosterone, your tolerance is going to be higher.
And so it's a frustrating thing to have to deal with. If you work in the grow facilities, there's a lot of companies, Trulieve, that doesn't provide proper ventilation or PPE or personal protective equipment.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of these companies in multiple states break OSHA. You did a lot of training with that recently.
I did. My company is actually in trouble with something like this now, and it's going to our local OSHA advisor for my union. Because they're like, I don't think we have to have SDS sheets. What's an SDS sheet? Well, we're having household chemicals, so we don't have to have SDS sheets. And I was like, also, one of my coworkers was trained in infectious disease control. The frequency of people that are going in and out of that restroom is too high for household chemicals to be effectively cleaning all the bacteria, which is why we all get fucking sick there all the time.
But also, even if it is just household chemicals, you also need to know how to properly, like, if someone gets in their eye, like, are you supposed to wash it or are you supposed to go straight to the ER? 409
cleaner, a very common household cleaner, has no active ingredient list on the back.
Mm-hmm.
So you have no idea what the hell's in there. It says, oh, if you need any more information, call this phone number. Well, guess what? That might be too late.
Yeah.
That person might be dead already.
Yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of people don't get that. And that's the reason why every place I worked at that had any sort of cleaner had an SDS sheet. Back when I was in the friggin' Navy, we called it an MSDS sheet. I think we dropped the M.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Material safety data sheet. These are just safety data sheets. Same thing.
Yeah. So it's just like, it's fucking...
16 different parts of the material safety data sheet. How to identify it, what it, looks like, smells like. Lord forbid you have to figure out what it tastes like. The topical reactions, possible allergies, if it has a skin hazard, like how to treat somebody if they get it in their eyes, nose, mouth, whatever, right? Possible cross-contamination risks. If you mix it with a different chemical, what's going to happen? What you should keep it away from. Like, a lot of people use bleach. That's a really common thing, right? Toilet bowl cleaner, bleach. Can't mix it with ammonia. You know what happens when you mix it with ammonia.
Hey, that makes mustard gas.
Yeah, but it makes your countertop sparkling clean.
We've been watching King of the Hill lately.
But yeah, it does clean really well, but it can kill you. It is odorless. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. But you know what else has ammonia in it? Human urine. Generally not in large enough amounts to create large, noxious amounts of mustard gas, but enough to make you feel like lightheaded, dizzy if you piss on top of it.
Yeah.
Say you haven't had a lot of water.
Or if someone is like, oh, it's fine, I just peed in a public bathroom. I'm just gonna, if it's yellow, let it mellow. Which, gross.
Yeah.
I understand if there's a truck or something, but still, flush the toilet, man.
That's another thing. Don't blow the dispensary toilet up and make it disgusting. Just also clean up after yourself.
Yeah, the amount of times I've had to clean up piss off the floor.
Oh my god, I told you about the shit sock. Can I talk about the shit sock? Oh my god. So
I think this will be the last thing.
The most disgusting thing I've probably come across in my time of working at a dispensary, and I personally didn't happen to me, thank goodness, because I would have went home. I would have went home. So, one of my coworkers were cleaning the bathroom at night and taking out the garbage, and there was a tube sock with a turd in it.
A whole ass turd.
Whole ass shit.
Like a melted chocolate bar.
In the trash can. And what we probably deduced happened was this, because the toilet was also... We deduced. Not intended, but appreciated. But we deduced that this dude... It was in the men's room. So this dude, right, probably took a shit, tried to flush it, wouldn't go down. Took a sock off, put it on his hand, got the shit out of the toilet and put it in the trash so he wouldn't clog the toilet. Because we don't have plungers. You would think we do, but we don't.
Dude, just fucking piss on it.
Maybe he couldn't log cut it. I don't know. Anywho, and now I have a note in my phone for my one coworker. We were talking about this. And I was like, was it a tube sock? And he went, yeah. What other kind of sock would you shit in?
Quote of the fucking year.
Quote of the year, yes. What other kind of sock do you shit in?
So yeah, be prepared. Okay, so I will tell the story of Booth Guy. Tell the story about Booth Guy.
This is why you can't have your product in the bathroom, by the way, if you see those signs on your dispensary doors ever.
Oh, we still a lot of people doing it. But if you work in a dispensary, you're gonna find some really out there characters because some people used to do hard drugs. You have a story with that. I know you probably shouldn't. You can tell if you want, but so there's a lot of people who use hard drugs. We had this guy who would take RSO and boof it, and for people who don't know what boofing is you put it up your butt. And we sell suppositories.
Yeah.
And, I get it for, certain digestional health or for, your AFAB, for, you're using for, period cramps and stuff. I get it, but, don't tell the women on our staff, oh, I just pooped RSO. And then leave the fucking toilet bowl sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's one way to warm up your syringe.
Oh, my God. Also, yeah, be careful, because, Cresco and some other companies use glass syringes.
Rebel RSO is a glass syringe.
You imagine that breaking in your butt?
Yeah, don't turn into one guy, one jar. Also, I'm not responsible for what happens if you Google that.
Don't Google it. I'm telling you right now, don't fucking Google it.
Yeah, the two sides of it. Raven and I don't care if you look it up, but you can't blame me. Raven, just don't do it. Just don't do it. And then there's going to be people who go, oh, she told me not to do it.
Is there anything you want to add before we go to our next?
No, I think we should be.
Well, just a last note on this topic is if you decide to work in the cannabis industry, especially on the dispensary side, you are going to deal with some really crappy and weird shit.
Crappy and shit.
So just be mindful of that, especially if you're working for these big corporations. So, going forward, this topic was brought to us by Ben from the Brat podcast, or Ben and Robin Are Trans. If you haven't listened to their podcast, go listen to them. They're really cool. They talk about a lot of things specifically towards the trans community. And it's a really fun podcast. One of their more recent episodes, they did a D&D one-shot.
Oh, heck yeah.
So Ben is married, if I recall correctly. He is married, and his husband is a active service member. Just for anonymity, they don't spread the name. I'm not going to even ask. But they have noticed the fact that they want us to talk about the fact that active duty service members can be full-blown alcoholics, but can't touch cannabis. And I thought that was a good topic to bring up, especially as being a military brat and a veteran myself. I thought it was a really cool topic for us to discuss. So as a veteran spouse, you were never a military spouse, but you've seen somehow the vets I interact with deal with alcoholism. What is your view on the alcoholism side of the military?
I feel like as long as I also come from a military family. My grandparents were in the military. And my grandfather drank beer the rest of his life, as long as I knew him, but he never really had like a super huge, like, I wouldn't call it alcoholic.
It was just like a can a day or something like that.
Yeah, just relaxing and stuff. But as long as in my brain that like the military and alcohol have kind of always been side by side. You watch all like the old movies and stuff. Like,
here, the Marine Corps was formed in a bar. They literally went to Tom Tavern, which when that's rebuilt, I want to go. They were formed from a bunch of guys in a bar. The Navy song "Anchors Aweigh" has a line that says "Drink to the foam." We used to have the rum ration. That used to be Navy history. We got rid of that. If you're deployed longer than I think 45 days without hitting a port, they usually do what's called in the Navy, they do a still beach day. It's more common on aircraft carriers, but you also get 2 actual alcoholic beers if you're old enough to drink, and it's supposed to boost morale. But they also do like barbecues and games and everything. And yes, that does happen, but it's super rare for you to drink on the ship. You're not allowed to usually drink on the ship. Going on port, though. Going to port's a little different. And so this is okay. So this is how bad alcoholism and just being drunk when you're at. It's one of those things. It's the moment you're allowed to, you go a little crazy. Like the cartoony sense, like those cartoon episodes where the homeschool kid goes to a party and then the homeschool kid goes a little too crazy because they're able to eat sugar and they're seeing alcohol for the first time. The stereotypical, like, super sheltered homeschool kid that's in cartoons, right? More adult cartoons, like American Dad. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's a little bit of that sense. There's these things called safety briefs. It's more common for, like, reservists, Army and Air Force, or people who are stationed stateside. Because on certain deployments, like if you're in Germany, they'll probably still do it. But if you're like over in like Afghanistan, especially during the height of the conflict, they're probably not going to do safety briefs as much. Of course, I could be wrong. I never saw combat. My parents never saw combat, luckily. Even though my dad did serve on a ship side helping with combat, none of them actually went overseas at once. But safety briefs are usually, there's a joke and there's a simple version of it. Don't add to the population, don't remove to the population, don't come back shit-faced, and don't end up in jail. If you do end up in jail, tell them you're... Make your life easier. But, it's those things, like, literally we have to tell our military personnel to, hey, don't go and get stupid drunk and get in trouble. Well, guess what happens? A lot of them get stupid drunk and get in trouble. One of my RDCs actually does not like the line in Anchors Aweigh saying drink to the foam, because he had a friend who he served with become an alcoholic and actually drank himself to death. So it's one of those things, and you get a lot of people discharged because they go too crazy, and because they drink and they do something stupid. But the moment they touch weed, it's a discharge. And I get it's because it's federally illegal, which I don't think it should be. And look at the other 122 episodes why we don't think it should be federally illegal.
Yeah.
But there's even things like when we went down to Virginia, adult use is legal in Virginia. While they don't have adult use shops yet, adult use is still legal in the state of Virginia. And when we were looking at like bases and stuff to go through, they have a thing that says, be smart, don't bring it in. And it's talking about cannabis. It's like, look, just because the state's legal doesn't mean that it's federally legal. And
I thought Virginia was medical only.
No, they only have medical dispensaries only. But it's technically adult use. They just don't have they're not giving licenses for adult use locations.
I didn't know that. I was super paranoid when we were in Virginia because I didn't want to get caught.
Yeah, no. That's what I'm trying to say. The thing I was worried about if we ever went on base.
Because, I didn't know that.
I thought I explained that. I do apologize. Yeah. So it's adult use. It's just they don't have the legal means to sell it, and that's Virginia's way of basically like, yeah, sure, you voted adult use, but we're not going to let you buy it legally. So the way to work around that is like the gifting method, and like people who you can grow your own. So a lot of medical patients will either buy products and like share it with their friends in their home, or will buy the stuff to grow medical, like grow their own, and then they'll like share the product.
Yeah.
That's why they had that weird sticker gifting loophole.
Oh yeah, you bought a sticker. Here, you get weed.
Mm-hmm.
This is a $35 sticker.
Yeah. It's more like an $80 sticker for an ETH.
Ugh.
Yeah. I was curious and I was looking for this before we went down. But because it's federally illegal and technically it doesn't matter what the state says, all military bases are federal property. So they're federal land. So they have to go with what the federal government says. So you can't touch it, unfortunately. Can't even have it in your system. Because you will get court-martialed if you do it. If you test pot for it, you will get court-martialed. Unless you can easily explain like why you didn't realize, but you can't even have CBD products on base, from my understanding.
Damn.
Because it's federally illegal, and that's so fucking stupid. So we're allowing people to abide in a drug, alcohol, that literally is, if not the only, one of the only drugs that the withdrawals will kill you.
Absolutely.
But they can't touch cannabis. And a lot of it, I feel like, comes from the stereotype of cannabis is you're not productive, so it fucks with military readiness.
But alcohol, you get hungover, and the next day, if you have an important mission you're going to be on, well, guess what?
Fucking Monday, you hope you're not hungover.
Yeah.
Because that's going to fuck with, guess what? Military readiness.
Also, just the double standard of the racism and the fucking
the origins of the cannabis use. Yes,
the reasons why it's federally.
Yeah, it's really dumb. It is really dumb. It is a huge double standard, but I feel like that's a lot of the whole double standard across the board with alcohol and cannabis. It's a lot of the double standard. We just see it a lot heavier because of the culture that the military has of drinking.
Mm.
So yeah, that's a big thing. Like here, I'll get an example. I'm listening to this podcast I ended up just connecting with on TikTok called the Home Sit Rep podcast. In one of their earlier episodes, they were talking to a guy, and he was one of his first duty stations was in Germany, and he got there so early that it was like a 4-day weekend. So there was no one really on base. So his sergeant major, he was in the Army. So his sergeant major ended up finding someone and goes, here, look, here's some ration coupons, get him some booze, and show him around. Mind you, he's 18! And they're like, just get him some booze. Because here's the thing, if you're on base, You have to follow the United States. If you're on a United States property, you have to follow what the United States says. So if I was on the ship, if I was on a ship, I couldn't drink, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if, because I was sailor, I'm using sailor terms, if I go on base or off base, I could drink, as long as the drinking age is 18 or lower.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in Germany, it's a lot lower. So they're like, here's some coupons, get him drunk, have him a good time, introduce him. At 18, and I'm pretty sure he was in during like the 80s, he said. So like that was after the United States went up to 21.
Good grief.
Yeah, fun things, right?
We're going to give you whatever you want, so you do whatever we want.
Then just give me weed.
No.
Like, you can't even have topicals. You can't even have topicals. Because they will argue against THC in your system. And it has weed in it. Yeah, it's a great... And that's the thing is, like, when I said earlier about the whole, like, that's the thing, even just outside the military with the whole thing, is like, you can't have cartoons on your packaging in a lot of states because that's that is too attractive, quote unquote, to minors, to get minors to buy it. But we can have Dunkin' Donuts flavored beer.
And we can have chocolate beer.
Yeah, or chocolate wine, or chocolate wine we like.
Chocolate wine.
Looks like chocolate milk. That's fine.
Mike's Hard Lemonade looks like lemonade. That's fine.
Yeah. Twisted tea. Kids not going to register that. It's like a little.
Iced tea.
They just think it's tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. I think it's a thing that's already in our society. It just blows up a bit with the military.
Alcohol also doesn't have to be childproof.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
You just have a screw off top on that bitch.
You know,
Yeah. Pop top can.
Hey, some are in actual, like, kids' juice box stuff.
Yeah.
But cannabis has to be.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Yeah. It really is. The double standard is bullshit. Is there anything you want to add to any of the topics? Because we are getting to that point where we should probably sign off.
No.
No? Okay. Well, once again, my name is Rayven. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Asmodeus. I use they, them pronouns.
And this has been another episode of
Smoking Out the Closet.
Bye.
Bye-bye.